welcome to Brewing Success, where growth is the mission, change is the reward, and progress is the goal. I am your host, Andrea Gebhardt. I'm a former educator turned passionate entrepreneur whose desire to create impact has never wavered. I have spent the last decade teaching, mentoring, and coaching people on how to create success in their lives and businesses with proven strategies and systems that not only bring about change, but big results. When it comes down to it, teaching is my specialty, leadership is my jam, and inspiring you to live a bigger, fuller life is what I'm all about. This podcast will give you the knowledge and tools you need to brew success in almost any area of your life. You're going to walk away each week feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to step outside your comfort zone and into the next level of who you're meant to be. Now let's get into today's episode. So today we are going to be talking about the top 5 challenges leaders need to learn to overcome and how to conquer them. And I think this topic is so incredibly important, whether you are just starting out in your leadership journey, you are in progress and developing as a leader, or even if you're in a place of developing others. At the end of the day, we have to know and understand that adversity, challenges, and disappointment are 3 things that are sprinkled into our journey. And we have to learn how to overcome adversity. We have to learn how to face challenges head on, and we have to learn how to manage our disappointments as we move through and move about. There's a reason why there's the expression, it's not going to be easy, but it is definitely going to be worth it. Our pathway is intentionally filled with trials and tribulations in order to grow us, change the way we think, change the way that we show up, to test us, to test our dream, to test our purpose, to test our mission. These things are brought to us with the intent to make us better. And once we are able to reframe how we think about challenges and adversity and stop looking at them as roadblocks, but a way in reality long-term to create clearings in the road, we have a much healthier relationship with challenges and adversity, and we have the ability to overcome them better. And so today we're going to talk about, again, the 5 challenges that we need to learn to overcome, and we're going to talk about how to conquer them today. So there's a quote that I absolutely love, and I am not, by the way, sharing this with you from memory. I'm reading it. I have it on a Post-it right here because it's so incredibly amazing. And it's Maya Angelou. And what I love about this quote is just the truth that it brings, the light that it sheds when it comes to overcoming challenges. And it says, "You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated. In fact, it may be necessary to encounter the defeats so you can know who you are, what you can rise from, and how you can still come out of it." And what I love about that is it just highlights the notion that the challenges are here to refine us. The challenges are going to make us better. And we can always, when we're in the midst of it, let's not lie, we're in the midst of it, the thick of the challenge. Sometimes we get so focused on the hardship or so focused on that feeling of being stuck or that feeling of failing or whatever the case may be. And we allow that to cloud our ability to take that next step and just move forward till we move out of it. But when we look back on all the different challenges that we've encountered in our lives, one of the reasons why it's such a powerful exercise to do, literally, if you were to just jot down on a piece of paper, all the things you've overcome, all of the adversity you face, all the things you've overcome in your life, you're going to look at that and you're going to be like, wow. And it's going to remind you of who you are. It's going to remind you of what you're capable of. It's going to remind you what you can rise from. It's going to remind you that you're capable of getting through it all. Sometimes we forget, and that's why I love that saying that 100% of your worst days are already behind you. And through each one of those, you've acquired skills and knowledge that will enable you to overcome challenges faster, to build resilience, to build grit, all those things that are necessary to be successful as a leader. So the top 5 challenges that we're going to address today are the fear of failure. We're also going to be talking about managing change during times of uncertainty, handling conflict and difficult conversations, maintaining focus and productivity amidst distractions, and lastly, building and sustaining confidence. These are 5 challenges that we have to learn to overcome. We're going to talk about why that matters and how to conquer them. So let's jump into the first one, which is a fear of failure. Why is a fear of failure such a challenge for leaders? And you know what I'm talking about, where you don't take the step, you don't initiate that project, or you don't activate that strategy, or you don't start that business, or you don't do the things because you're so afraid of failing. Again, this is where we have to modify our relationship with failure. We have to understand that failure is a part of the process. Failure is how we succeed. And I love to liken this to little kids. Little kids do not fear failure. An 11 or 12-month-old, when they're getting their bearings and walking, and they're standing up and they're kind of wobbly, but they want to make it to mama. They're not afraid of falling. They don't know what it's going to feel like. They don't know, if they're going to make it, and they're not worried about it. All they know is I have to just move this leg in front of this leg over and over and over until I get to her. And then eventually they get comfortable and they get confident with walking. It's like a child learning how to ride a bike. There's no fear of failure. And yeah, sure. Like, mommy, what if I fall? What if I, cut my legs open? I remember my daughter, I don't want to fall down and scrape my knees. And, so there's that little bit that holds kids back. In fact, I'm willing to say that the fear of failure is the difference between a kid learning to ride a bike at 3, 4, or 5, or a kid learning to ride a bike later in life. Same thing with swimming and adults. Like, sometimes I'm surprised by the number of adults who don't know how to swim. And because there was a fear of drowning early on, a fear of failing or not being able to do it. And so what we know about fear is that it's paralyzing. Fear is going to paralyze you. It's going to prevent you from taking action. It's going to prevent you from taking the necessary risks. It's going to keep you from innovating and, leveraging new ideas. And it's going to keep you from making bold decisions. And as we know, leadership is about action, taking risks, innovating, making bold decisions. That's what leadership's about. So fear kind of comes in and wrecks that plan and debilitates our ability to do those things. So okay, Andrea, you're probably thinking, well, how do I overcome the fear of failure? I don't think that you ever really overcome it completely. I think that you're always going to have a little bit of it existing in there. I think that it's a part of how we're hardwired as humans. We naturally want to keep ourselves safe and protect ourselves. That's that part of our subconscious brain that gets involved, right? Those limiting beliefs and those limiting ideas, those limiting thoughts that get involved. But I think that what happens is we grow in this ability to overcome the fear of failure so much that it just loses its strength and its ability to overtake you. What was once a loud disruption of a fear of failure soon becomes just a subtle whisper. And we just get better at this as we go along. Like, listen, fear is going to creep in from time to time. And it's really how we respond to it that dictates the level of leadership we've grown into, our leadership, maturation process. And so we overcome the fear of failure truly by embracing a growth mindset. Like, this is absolutely required, because when you embrace a growth mindset, you're open to new ideas, you're open to new information, you're open to trying, you're open to, moving beyond your comfort zone. I mean, that is what a growth mindset is all about. So first, if we want to overcome the fear of failure, we have to embrace a growth mindset. And we have to know that success is always in the direction of a little bit risky, a little bit scary, a little uncertainty. Like, success hides around those corners. And so we got to get moving and take the actions to get around those corners so that we can make the moves and move the needle and make the progress and have the success that we're looking for. You have to be able to view your failures as a learning opportunity rather than giving them this power of being like a setback. A failure is a learning opportunity. A failure is not a setback. The best thing about something not working out, the best thing about not doing something right the first time, is it presents you with a unique opportunity to learn what you need to do to make it better, or who you need to become to be better at it. I love that part. And I cannot remember for the life of me, and this has been stewing in my brain all night as I, was excited to bring this to you. I was recently on a Zoom or on a training of some sort. And, now I remember. Okay. So, I am, for the past couple of weeks and for the next 6 weeks now that are left, working to become certified, if you will, in some specific nutrition content, body transformation content. And they're, teaching like how important it is when you're helping people lose weight or you're helping people get healthier to one, have, products or supplements that help with that, but also programs that coincide with it, and just the importance of that, and the importance of integrity to the program, and importance of, fidelity to the lifestyle changes and consistency over time and getting the results that you're desiring, and how to coach people, mentor people through that. And it was so interesting because one of the trainers talked about, we were a weekend and there were a bunch of people like, I didn't do this and I forgot that and I didn't do this and da 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 da. And, she was like, oh my gosh, that's great. Like, I love it when people make mistakes and when people fail, because if they didn't get the results they were looking for that first week, they can go back to where they made that mistake and then they can make the correction. And that just kind of ignited this little light bulb moment for me. And I just thought to myself, wow, when we're developing people, when we're developing leaders, when we're developing teams, when we're helping people start out in our businesses as brand new entrepreneurs, sometimes we want to give them the entire playbook. Sometimes we want to spoon feed them every little thing, because I think we fear their failure and their inability to manage or cope with that, and how it could completely take them out of their own journey, their own game. When in reality, when we start to model that behavior as viewing failure as a learning opportunity rather than a setback, when we're able to model that, it sets a really great example. And then we start to cultivate this culture and this notion that, hey, failure is welcome here. Mistakes are welcome here. In fact, I hope you experience failure. I hope you experience mistakes, because failure is evidence of effort. And that's what we want. The only people in life who never fail are the people who don't take action. It's that simple. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to live a life where I play small and stay small. I want to play a life where I play big and go big. Like, that's what it's about. So I want you to encourage yourself and your team, the people that you're mentoring and leading, to see mistakes as steps toward improvement and growth. And you can liken this to the parenting journey too. Carter is 16. He's learning how to drive. I'll be getting my second set of gray hair. I have couple little sparklers on one side from Ethan. Carter's, next. And so, we're learning how to drive here. And I sit there pressing my right foot into the floorboard, like when I just don't feel like he's slowing down enough. I'm gripping the door handle. I'm trying not to say too much because he's got to learn, and I'm not going to be there when he's driving on his own. But my biggest, fear is that something's going to happen in front of him, right? Somebody's going to change lanes abruptly. Somebody's going to stop abruptly. Somebody's going to do something. And because he is new to this and hasn't experienced this yet, will he have the proper reaction time? Or will he be paying attention to enough of the things going around him to be a defensive driver? And so here I am with this fear that I haven't communicated, by the way. And I'm a little bit nervous as we're sitting there driving. And as much as I want to interject and say things, here's the deal. At the end of the day, the only way he's going to learn to become a defensive driver, the only way he's going to learn to trust his own response time and all of those types of things, is to be in a situation where one of those things happen, where he gets caught off, somebody brake checks him. One of those things happen, because we learn most in the moment. And it doesn't, just because you had to slam on your brake, that's not a failure, right? But it's an opportunity to learn that maybe next time I should slow down a little bit sooner. And the truth of the matter is, in anything that we're doing, we always get better as we go. And we always get better as we grow, which is why embracing that growth mindset is so incredibly important. As we shift here to talk about moving from the fear of failure to the next challenge you need to overcome, which is managing change and uncertainty, I think that this right here, I think the last 4 years have really created this like line of separation in leadership. There's leaders who have very successfully been able to lead well through change and lead well through uncertain times. And then there's those leaders who haven't. And there's this line of separation that's been created. And it's not to say that anyone is better than another, but it just goes to show you who has stayed in the growth and who has maintained that growth mindset. Because you have to be willing to embrace change to be able to manage it. You have to be willing to be able to embrace change to be able to manage it. You have to be able to embrace uncertainty to be able to manage it, especially lead through it. And again, this just comes back to show the difference between leaders who are learning and growing and maturing and leaders who are complacent and stagnant. And so, The measure of intelligence is the ability to change. That's a really famous quote by Albert Einstein, but it says so much. When you think about the people in your life who are the most rigid, the most unwilling to change, chances are, and this is going to sound kind of like brash, but like, I hope you understand my intent, my heart when I say it, but they're also probably less intelligent, because the smarter we are, like as we adapt and as we grow, we understand that change is required. Change is the price of progress. That's what we want to do. That's what we got to do. And so we have to get good at understanding that, like, change isn't a bad thing. We got to let go of old ways to open new doors. That's just how it works. So let's talk about this challenge of managing change and uncertainty. Here's the deal. I'm pretty convinced at this point in my life and the world that we live in, that uncertainty is just a part of the equation. There are so many different things that are taking place at so many different levels, politically, economically, I mean, just everywhere, right? And we don't know how things are going to work out. A lot of it is just, we got to trust the process and take each day for what it has to deliver, and make the most of who we are in the moment with the skills that we have in the moment. And so managing change and uncertainty is a big challenge for leaders, because the business landscape is constantly evolving. We can never get too comfortable. Something is always changing. Technology is always changing. Social media is always changing. Advertising is always changing. Marketing is always changing. The consumer needs and desires are always changing. The economy is always changing. So, when I think about this, it reminds me that as leaders, we have to be adaptable. And we have to remain agile to stay relevant. Outdated practices and outdated principles result in outdated organizations, businesses, leaders, and outdated usually becomes out of business. And we know how that works. We've seen it happen. All across the board. I just saw an advertisement, or not even advertising, like a little news flash today that said Schwan's, like if you know who Schwan's is, they're like one of the first at-home frozen food delivery services. I was a big fan as a kid because my mom would always get ice cream off of there, and like these little chicken patties that were so amazing. And right, like the Schwan's guy would pull up, and it was so neat because his little truck had all these little compartments, all this food would come out, and our fridge was stocked. And I can't believe how much I think now about how my kids were a lot like I was when I was younger, like very food focused, right? Like yummy. But Schwan's, after 75 years, they're going out of business. Why are they going out of business? Okay, because people are, not like so keen on just having like frozen food delivery service, when at the click of a button while I'm folding laundry, I can order my groceries for the week from Instacart, or, a delivery pickup service, or whatever the case may be, the DoorDashes of the world, the Uber Eats of the world. People no longer rely on convenience in frozen foods and that type of a lifestyle. So that business model has become outdated, and now Schwan's is going away. So that just kind of validates the point that I'm making here, is we have to be adaptable and agile to change if we want to be successful leaders, because we're in a constant landscape that is always changing. So how do you overcome constant change? And I get it. Trust me. Oh my gosh, I get it. You spend time building a business, you spend time building systems, you spend time learning things, and then bam, something changes. Now we have to look at how we're doing things. Now we have to evolve and we have to grow. And I remember this being my biggest frustration as a teacher. Because just when I got comfortable with the curriculum, we brought a new curriculum. Just as I got comfortable with the technology, we brought in new technology. Just as I got comfortable with a specific teaching strategy that we were implementing, or assessment tools that we were using, bam, in came another one, in came another change on top of the changing of my classroom sizes and administration and the demographics of our school. But maybe that is what gave me the resilience to be able to be in this space of leadership development, personal growth, and entrepreneurship, to understand that things are always going to be changing around us, which is why we have to make sure that we're changing from within. So we have the skills and the abilities to change. Like we got to be able to make sure we're changing enough on the inside to keep up with the change that's taking place on the outside, is what I'm trying to say here. It's critical. So how do you overcome this? You have to develop resilience and flexibility. What do I mean by resilience? A resilience is the mindset that no matter what, I am in it to win it. No matter what, I'm going to pursue my goals. No matter what changes around me, I'm going to continue on the path of moving things forward. I'm going to be flexible so that I can learn the things I need to learn. I'm going to be flexible so that I can adopt new ideas and practices that maybe I didn't know about. I'm going to be flexible to the idea that maybe I'm not the smartest person in the room and there's somebody else out there with a better idea that's designed or meant to move our organization along. We overcome this by staying informed and being open to new ideas, leading by example in embracing change. I just cannot handle a leader who is resistant to change. I cannot handle the leader who's like, well, we've always done it this way and I like it this way. Well, it's not about what you like and what you've always done. It's about what we need to do to keep our organization relevant, to keep our businesses relevant, to keep success attainable for the normal, everyday, average person. Like that's what it's about. Just like if you were to think about even in the space of personal growth and development, take it back. Like once upon a time, the only way you could get it was by attending an event and hearing that person speak in person. And then technology came along and audio cassettes were made. Oh, and then you could get audio cassettes and listen to a recording. And then people started writing books. And then people started holding big conferences that went virtual. And then all these thought leaders started doing podcasts and YouTube channels. And now they're building communities and all these different things are happening because the medium of which the information has been delivered has changed over time. And if somebody like John Maxwell ever said, well, I've always only ever done live events, he wouldn't have had cassettes. I've only ever done cassettes. He wouldn't have books. I've only ever done books. He wouldn't have a podcast, right? Does that make sense? So we have to make sure that we're doing this. We have to make sure that we lead by example and embracing the change and being willing to change. And the most important part about managing change and uncertainty that I need, like where I see leaders really needing to do some work, is making sure that when change is taking place and when there is a period of uncertainty, that you increase your visibility as a leader and you increase your communications with the highest level of transparency as possible with your team so that everybody navigates it together. A lot of times when change is taking place, leaders go quiet because they're not really sure how it's going to go or what it's going to look like. And sometimes they're afraid to put their credibility on the line when change is in motion. A lot of times during times of uncertainty, leaders retreat and they get quiet because they're so concerned or worried that if there's this, measure of uncertainty floating around that people are feeling this or thinking that. Well, as leaders, it's our jobs to get up front. It's our jobs to communicate transparently the changes that are taking place, the uncertainty that is there, and give reassurance and redirect to the vision and let everybody know that we're in it together. It's that type of leadership that cultivates and nurtures and builds really successful teams. Now this next challenge is so interesting. We're going to talk about, the challenge of handling conflict and difficult conversations. How many of you guys, whether it's in your job or your family or whatever community group you run or business that you're doing or social media group that you manage or whatever the case may be, find yourself kind of like being conflict, resolution service sometimes, having to have difficult conversations with people. And again, this is a great separator in leadership because there's those people who don't know how to handle conflict. They make it worse. They add to the problem. That's not great leadership. There's people who shy away from or tend to not get involved or engaged in difficult conversations. And again, that's just a lack of leadership. So we have to learn to overcome. So you understand that each one of these challenges that I'm talking about are an up-leveling in your leadership level. When you learn to overcome the fear of failure, or you're able to reframe it and understand it's a part of the journey, you up-level in your leadership. When you learn to embrace change and uncertainty, you up-level in your leadership. When you learn to handle conflict and have difficult conversations, that one is like power packed. That's like 4 or 5 up-levelings in one, because it takes a certain amount of emotional intelligence and emotional resilience to be able to do this well. And if you're not doing the work, and if you're not growing, and if you're not studying communication, and if you're not studying relationships, then you're missing the whole point here, because without this one, without overcoming this challenge, your leadership journey is going to be stifled and probably stalled. So why is handling conflict and difficult conversations such a huge challenge for leaders? Because they're present. Why? Because we're in the business of people and we're dealing with lots of people, even if you run a classroom, you're having to do conflict management. Even if you have kids at home, oh my gosh, conflict management. And you know what? As a parent, you're going to have to be involved in difficult conversations with your kids. And it's just a part of the process. And we have to learn how to do that. Listen, conflicts can arise from lots of different situations, differing opinions, misunderstandings, power struggles, which if you don't handle them properly can end up disrupting team dynamics and productivity. In fact, here's what I've always been able to point out. Like a team that has a bunch of drama is because the leader plays into the drama. A team that is drama free is because the leader has created like drama boundaries. And some of you, that might be really hard to hear because you're like, oh, dang, like that was a little bit of a slap in the face. Well, check yourself before you wreck yourself, my friend. Like this is why we have these conversations. It's self-awareness is key. If your team is full of drama, you are part of the problem and we got to self-correct. We got to fix that. So how do we overcome it? First of all, I'm going to say that when conflict arises, we need to make sure that we're approaching conflicts with empathy. Empathy. Validate people's feelings and emotions. People get to decide how they feel about something. And we don't get to tell them how they feel. We don't get to tell them how they should feel. And we don't get to tell them how they shouldn't feel. We just listen. I understand how you feel. I understand why you feel that way. I understand, wow, that must have been really hard to hear. That must have been really hard to see. That must have been really challenging to experience. We got to validate those feelings. What we do in life, mostly because we're busy and we're not intentional in our engagement with others, is that we sweep stuff under the rug because we're sweepers. Oh, that's not a big deal. She probably didn't mean that. Like, don't worry about it. Like, you're overreacting. Oh gosh, right now, I'll just tell you two things. You want to get under my skin, tell me I'm crazy, and then I'm overreacting. No, I'm not. That is my reaction. It is not an overreaction. That's how it made me feel. That is my reaction to it. Like, ladies, I know you are like, Lord help me, right? Like, it's awful. I don't want to hear those things. And so we want to make sure we're approaching conflicts with empathy. We want to also make sure we're actively listening. The best way to diffuse conflict is to get into real conversation, not over the phone, not over text, but like face-to-face, eye-to-eye, even if it's digitally, like over Zoom, where you're not distracted with anything else and you're actually paying attention to the conversation, and come to that conversation with a problem-solving attitude. Even if you're the person in conflict with someone else, come to this with a problem-solving attitude. Hey, listen, when you said this, I felt this way. It made me feel maybe you don't value what I do, or you don't respect me as a leader, or blah, 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 blah. And in the future, it would be really helpful if in the future, if I was included, or you did this, like, have the conversations. For crying out loud. You cannot be mad at someone for something you are not willing to talk to them about. You cannot hold a grudge against someone for something you're not willing to work through. You are half of the problem. If there's conflict, there's two parts, you and them. You're half of the problem. So you have to come to that with a potential and plausible solution. So we want to focus on finding common ground and creating win-win solutions, model calmness and fairness in all interactions. And that mostly goes if you're like managing the conflict for somebody. You don't get to show up and pick sides. Oh, that's your best friend and that's a random person. Like, we don't get to pick sides. We come to it neutrally. We have to focus on what's best for the greater good of the organization or the team that we're leading, and work with that. And then make sure that we are not talking about other people's problems with other people, making sure that we're setting a precedence and an expectation for what that looks like. The best way to handle conflicts and have difficult conversations is to establish clear-cut boundaries about how you as the leader is going to respond to it. So if somebody calls you and wants to vent about so-and-so, like, hi, yeah, we're not going to have this conversation. I'm sorry you're frustrated. I'm sorry you're upset. Like, we're not having this conversation. I'm not going to just sit here and let you bash somebody. That's not, if you want to talk to me about how you feel and how you contribute to that and what I can do to help you, I'm down. But if you want to call me and just talk about so-and-so or gossip or this or that, it's not going to happen here. That's the kind of example that we got to set. So, and it's huge and it's important, because your entire leadership journey is going to be filled, full of, not filled, but there's going to be times where conflicts arise and difficult conversations have to take place. But again, if we approach those difficult conversations with compassion and empathy and win-win solutions, then we really can't lose in those situations. So the next big challenge for leaders, our next up-leveling, I should say, is maintaining focus and productivity amidst distractions. Oh my gosh. It's so funny because when people start out on their journeys, their fitness journey, their lifestyle change journey, right? Their entrepreneurial journey, leadership journey, they're super focused. You go to the gym every single day. You're eating really clean every single day. You are plugging into your business and doing all the things you need to do every single day. You're pouring into your team, or creating, really great things for the team and the organization every single day. And then as time goes on, we pull away from what we should be doing and we spend more time on things that we shouldn't be doing that pull us away from the mission or the vision, kind of like take us out of alignment. So we got to make sure we're maintaining focus and productivity amidst all the distractions that are there. We know that distractions are always going to be present. It's how we respond to them that matters. So here's the challenge, guys. We live in a fast-paced world. We live at the speed of the feed. It's easy to get overwhelmed by endless tasks, distractions, mostly information overload. In fact, I want to just say here and kind of like make this declaration that I think that 99% of burnout now doesn't stem from the like hustle, flexing your hustle muscle mentality or doing too much or being too involved or being a yes person or having kids in sports or any of those things. I think it just has to do with overconsumption of information. I mean, if you think about it, from the time that we get up, your kids hit you with a million things you have going on that day. Got to sign this paper, got to do this. And then your brain's thinking about all the things you got to take care of. And then you scroll on social media for 15 minutes, but you watch 32 different people make meals and 3 lifestyle cleaning hacks and then how to decorate your porch. And then you learn something about like your hormones and perimenopause, like, oh my gosh, like a week's worth of like information in like 15 minutes. Oh, and then you go to work and then you do this and then you do that. And then it just, your kids come home from school and they slam you with a whole bunch of other information. Your spouse comes home from work and they hit you with a whole bunch of other information. Oh, and then you have that team call and you learn this whole new thing. And this, it's just information overload. Like, I think that's really what leads to burnout. And so we have to make sure that we're real protective of our time, real protective of our priorities, real protective of how we move about. This is where intentionality is so key, right? So how do you overcome these distractions and maintaining, focus and productivity? First of all, number one, you got to prioritize ruthlessly. Like when you think about the word like ruthless, like it's gnarly. You got to prioritize ruthlessly. You have to be like super set on your intentions and what matters and those little like key performance indicators and those tasks that you got to do, those high, revenue generating things that you got to be engaged in to be able to do what you're supposed to do in whatever it is that you're doing. You got to focus again on those high impact activities. If it isn't contributing to the vision or the goal or the outcome that you desire, like probably should get rid of it or minimize how much time we're doing it. You got to establish clear goals. If you're leading a team or you're running a business, you have to delegate effectively. You should really only be doing the things that only you can do. If somebody else can do it and is good at it and has a strength there or a skill there, pass it along. Leadership isn't about power. Leadership isn't about control. Leadership is about empowering other people, and we do that through delegation. And then, of course, creating routines that minimize distractions. Like for me, when I sit down to work, I literally put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So I'm not getting all the Instagram pings and all the Instagram dings and all the random things that come through on my phone that tend to steal my focus and my attention. I just put on Do Not Disturb, 2 hours. Everybody's going to be fine, right? Everybody's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. It'll all be there when I come back to it. All those notifications will be there. But right now I have to focus on this. I need to get this work done because at the end of the day, when you don't get it done, when you allow those distractions to derail your success, you feel defeated. Your confidence, your belief level in what you're pursuing dwindles. And then that gives you less motivation moving into the next day. But if you stay focused and you are productive and you accomplish those things, at the end of the day, you go to bed feeling accomplished, and it gives you more motivation to move towards that next goal into the next day. And then the last one, we're going to talk about building and sustaining confidence. And I want you to just hold on to this thought and this idea because it's just so good. This quote, it's Theodore Roosevelt, and he says, "Believe you can and you're halfway there." Oh my gosh, believe you can and you're halfway there. And I say this to my kids all the time. Well, I don't know about this. I don't think blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, believe you can, you're halfway there. All you have to do is believe that it's possible. I don't know if we're going to win the game. Believe you can and you're halfway there. Belief is so incredible. And it fires up so much. It fires up like assurance in us and like this assertive nature in us. It gives us posture. It gives us conviction. It gives the moves that we make energy, right? I think that belief and passion kind of hang out at the same club and are kind of like the beat of the music that gives like, your purpose, that vibe. It's just what it is. That was I should never be a DJ. That was a terrible little beat drop, but you know what I mean. So building and sustaining confidence. This is that up leveling. Of those 5, this is that next big power packed up leveling as a leader. Why is building and sustaining confidence such a challenge? Because self-doubt is inevitable. Guys, listen, here's how I want you to think about yourself. I want you to think about yourself as like mosaic of all these different pieces. Your past life, your current life, your future life, your past problems, your current problems, future problems, your past this, your current, your future, like all these little things pieced together like a mosaic, right? Well, even in like all those pieces of the puzzle that come together that make the wonderful and beautiful and amazing you, every piece, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, every piece, even in a puzzle, where those pieces come together, there's a break. There's a little break. And in that little break, like self-doubt can creep in, fear can creep in, lack of confidence can creep in, imposter syndrome can creep in, all those things. There's always potential for those things to kind of creep in. And what we have to remember is that this is a part of it. It can happen, especially during challenging times. Especially when you're experiencing a setback, especially when you're facing criticism. All of those adverse things that we experience create opportunities for self-doubt to like take root. So in order for us to kind of overcome this and build and sustain confidence levels, which is required because you guys know that you can't give what you don't have, right? You cannot give what you don't have, which is why we want to build confidence so that we can transfer confidence to other people. We want to build up our own levels of belief so we can transfer belief over to other people because some people start their dreams on borrowed energy. Some people start their dreams on borrowed energy. They start their dream because somebody else believed in them first. In fact, I remember the moment I felt believed in the very first time. I was in 5th grade and I had a teacher. If you've been around on these podcasts, I've talked about her. I wrote every college essay about her. She had such a profound impact on my life at 11 years old. Mrs. Nichols, she was just incredible. And I remember feeling so defeated. Like life was hard. I grew up in a single family home. We were dirt poor. I didn't have the cool clothes. In fact, I often wore high waters and hand-me-downs and clothing from like the bargain center and like ugly shoes. And we lived by the tracks in a house that nobody would want to go to. And I would like beg my friends' parents to drop me off, like not at my house, but down the street. So they didn't know where I lived. Like it was crazy. And I just remember feeling so defeated, but her classroom was like the only place where I felt valued. Like her classroom was where I felt like I had worth and value because I was smart and I was a good writer and I was a good reader and I had good ideas. And I remember one day just feeling kind of defeated and just, my self-worth and value was probably a little low and she could probably see that in me. And I remember her coming over to me and she put her hands on both of my shoulders and she knelt down just a little bit. She had grayish white hair and these really great like 70s style retro glasses that she wore. She was such an amazing human. And she grabbed me by both of my shoulders. And I remember her telling me, listen to me. I believe in you and I want you to know something right now. Whatever you put your mind to, oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. Whatever you put your mind to, you'll be able to achieve. And I remember her telling me this at like 11 years old. It was like the whole world stopped around us. And I was like, it felt really good to hear. Number 2, it was the first time in my life I'd ever been told that. And number 3, there was just like this overwhelming wash of like, what if she's right? Like, if I just set my mind to it, if I just decide that's what I want and what I can do, like what if she's right that I can just do it? And that became the borrowed energy that I built the rest of my life on. It's why I pursued things that were outside my comfort zone. It's why I pursued things that felt like I felt like I belonged in leadership positions, student council, leadership peer mentoring groups, all these things. It gave me the courage at such a young age to pursue life in such a big way. And so most of our dreams begin on borrowed energy. And this is why it's so important for us as leaders to continually build and sustain our levels of confidence and belief. Because again, we cannot give what we do not have. And when you're leading people, when you're mentoring people, when you're bringing people into your organization, when you're coaching people, when you're doing all of that, your confident levels and belief levels have to be so high, like in such levels of abundance, that you can give it away freely, that you can transfer it freely. And this is why we have to learn to overcome that challenge of, struggling to maintain it. So how do we overcome lack of confidence? How do we overcome the feeling like it's hard to stay confident all the time or have a high level of belief all the time? Well, guys, simple. You just got to regularly reflect on your past achievements and strengths that have gotten you this far. Like literally, if you just started off every month, like a little self-reflection, or if that's too much for you, you could do it every year. Or when you're kind of like in a pity party or what I call a pooper scooper, where everything's just gone to, just take a moment and document all of your past achievements, all of your strengths, all the things that you've gotten this far. When you look at that list, you're like, dang, you're reminded of how incredible you are. You're reminded of how far you've come. You're reminded of the unique gifts and talents and things that you've been equipped with. You're reminded of the calling on your life. That's how you do it. How else do you work to overcome this? You seek feedback. Seek feedback. You should never get to a point as a leader where you think you know it all. You think you're good at it all. Never. Always seek feedback. What did you think? What did you love? Where could I do better? Give me, and I tell people all the time, because I have a lot of people like, oh, that was amazing. I'm like, but was it? Like, I want you to tell me what wasn't amazing about it. Where did I falter? Where did I slip up? What analogy was inappropriate? Like, where could I have delivered information better? What, I want to know because I want to get better. And when you seek feedback and you're working on yourself, like you're confident, your brain honors that. Your intuition honors that. It celebrates that. It's exciting. The next way that you can do it is by celebrating small wins. Small wins. Sometimes we get so big, focused on like the big goals that we forget the little wins that happen along the way. Success is merely, just a bunch of really small wins all packed up together. It's really all it is. Like if you were to unwrap a success present, inside of it are a bunch of little teeny tiny small win presents. That's what's inside of there. Like those little babushka dolls, right? Nesting dolls. Like there's one more inside, one more inside, one more inside. And of course, work to continue to develop your skills, because when you're in growth mode and you're working to learn and grow and understand more, that's naturally going to help increase your confidence over time, because you're never going to find yourself in a place where you feel like you are behind because you're always on a growth track. And of course, lastly, the best way to build confidence and belief and to sustain that is to turn that spotlight on other people, support and uplift others, which in turn reinforces your own confidence. I mean, it's really incredible how it works. So let's talk about why becoming an overcomer in all of these areas is so essential to your success. Number one, resilience builds trust. Okay. So when we become resilient and we model resilience, it builds trust with our teams. Teams are more likely to follow leaders who demonstrate resilience in the face of challenges, as it builds trust and confidence. It's key. Number two, growth through adversity. So every challenge, as we know, is an opportunity for growth, skill development, greater self-awareness, and overcoming obstacles is what strengthens your leadership abilities and prepares you for even greater challenges ahead. And here's what I know. Some of the best leaders are the people who've been through some of the hardest things. Just like some of the best people are some people who've been through some of the hardest things. It's all of those adversities that refine them and shape them and molded them into who they are today. And without those hard things, they wouldn't have the level of resilience or empathy or understanding or the ability to create solutions for others in similar situations. Like, I just think that's such the beautiful part about the ugly stuff is who you become on the other side of it. Number three, you become an inspiration for others. When you overcome challenges, when you inspire your team to push through their own obstacles and you create a culture of perseverance and determination, I mean, how is that not inspiring? Inspired people chase the vision at just a completely different level. And then, of course, the last one here, adapting to change. So overcomers are better equipped to adapt to changing environments, which is going to make you, more effective and a versatile leader in any situation. So overcoming these 5 things is going to serve you greatly in your leadership journey, you guys. I just want to say thank you for hanging in with me today on this episode. Listen, if you're leading a team right now and this was helpful for you, share it with another leader. If you're a developing leader, share it with the people that you know that are developing their leadership as well. If you are running a team, leading a team, running a business, my gosh, like I would love, love, love for you to share this. And you know, it would really mean a lot to me if you just shared this to social media. Tag me in it. Tell me what you took away from it. There's just so many good little golden nuggets in here that just help us become better people and better leaders, which in turn creates stronger teams and just more incredible people we have out there marching in the world towards all the different visions that we have for all the different things that we're working toward, you guys. I just want to say thanks for being such a huge part of the Brewing Success community, where growth is the mission, change is the reward, and progress is the goal.